Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here again with Nikki Kinzer. Hello, Nikki.
Hello, Pete. How are you?
I'm doing so well.
Good.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. It is gorgeous.
It's May. It's spring.
Oh, May rocks.
I know it does. I like spring.
Oh, it feels so good. You just feel that vitamin D.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, it's so good. We are doing a digital episode this week, which, it sets my heart aflutter.
It sets your heart into a flutter and sets mine into a panic. So thank you.
No. Thank you and good night.
All right, please, go ahead.
Please head over to TakeControlADHD.com. Get to know us a little bit better. Listen to the show right there on the web. Subscribe to our mailing list or for free on iTunes and your podcatcher of choice. And connect with us on Twitter and Facebook at Take Control ADHD. Call us. Leave a voicemail at 503-664-4ADD. Get your voice, your thoughts, your questions on this very show. We really would love to hear from you. I'll tell you, I've been thinking about routines, Nikki Kinzer.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Just sounds like fun.
What? Wait, why do you say it like that?
Well, no, actually, routines is a great word, but I know of some people who think routines are kind of a nasty word. Like they want them, but they resist them. Yeah.
No, I know. I'm so curious why they resist them. Well, first of all, let's do that. Can we do this? Let's just talk about what is a routine. And I'm going to say what a routine is to me.
Okay.
And how I use the word routine, because maybe there's a chance I'm using the word wrong and there's another word for what I'm talking about that you will know better. So here's what it is for me. A routine is a string of activities that you put together to accomplish a specific goal, right? And for example, let's just say my goal is get ready for the day, Pete. And so that always starts the night before, which is set my alarm to wake up the next morning. And then my next step is wake up, just get myself out of bed. Usually step 3 is step on a hairball that my cat left me from the middle of the night. And step 4 is clean up the aforementioned hairball, brush teeth, take a shower, get dressed, eat breakfast, make tea, and then settle in for work. And now I am ready for the day. I have accomplished my routine in 10 activities, and I'm ready to go. Is that a routine?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I see it as a checklist, sort of like what you just explained.
Yeah. It's just it's a string. It's a string of activities that allow you to accomplish a goal. And I have to use routines with a degree of sort of zealotry, right? I have to use them.
So what when you say have to, what do you mean that you have to? Like, what would happen if you don't?
Well, I would not do things.
You would not do things.
I might not pick up the hairball. I might not even step on the hairball if I didn't have it on my checklist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I have to have those things on there or I will forget them because I will get distracted by the environment and I'll leave out a crucial step.
I think you hit the nail on the head for many of my clients. It's the remembering part. They need to have the checklist because they'll forget.
That's right. If it's written down, I'll do it. And so that is super important to me. And so I've been, this week we're launching a new podcast and I have this set of steps that I go through each week to actually produce and post and share the podcasts that we do. And it got me thinking about how I track my routines. And this isn't just about like work. This is about tracking the sets of work that I do repeatedly. And I use digital tools to do that. So I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to step back and look at how we can use the tools that we've, in some cases already talked about, in some cases, some new apps that I want to share that help deal with specifically routines.
Yeah. This is great.
Now, I use, as you know, I am a big fan of OmniFocus. And so I use...
You are not.
I'm not kidding you this time.
Really?
I am so serious.
Okay.
I use OmniFocus to track my routines. And so OmniFocus, it's got this sort of outline level for, setting up your tasks. And so I can set up a project or a main task. In this case, I have a folder in my project list called templates. And in that templates folder, you can probably guess what's in there, my routine templates. Right? So let's just say I have a podcast prep template, right? And in that template, I have record show, split the audio, edit the audio in Logic, render to MP3, upload MP3 to SoundCloud, create the artwork, write the blog post, and publish to iTunes. Let's just say that's a list of my 8 steps that I might use to publish any generic podcast, right? So I've put that list together, and it's in a parallel project. And so, for those who aren't familiar with OmniFocus, you can have parallel or serial projects. And parallel projects mean all of these tasks could be done at the same time. They're all available to me to look at. I could change that to serial and make sure that only the first task in the list is available. I can't even see the other 7 steps because they aren't available to me until the first one is done. So I check off the first one and then the next one shows up. Check off that one, the next one shows up. So that's a serial project. And that is, or I should say sequential is actually the word that OmniFocus uses. So I just leave it parallel while it's in template mode. And when I have, let's say, this new project, I take the project, the podcast prep, and I just right-click on it and I click duplicate. And that duplicates the whole set of my routine. It duplicates that routine in OmniFocus, and I can then drag it to my new project folder, this new podcast that I'm doing. Now I can go in there and I can customize it, I can tweak it and make it work just the way I want it to work, and make sure each week, each time we have a new episode, I just duplicate that set of tasks and I'm off to the races. So that's how I manage my routines. Now my templates folder has routines for every repeating project that I do. Everything that I have to do every week, there's a template for it, and it's all customized specifically for that project with specific due dates, specific repeat dates. And when I duplicate that set of routines, that set of tasks, it just works.
Okay.
What do you think so far? Is that something that you can envision?
It is, because I'm actually looking at OmniFocus right now. But I have a question. So I just want to be clear. You have the template folder, and then you actually move the template into the specific podcast that you're doing, and then basically customize it at that point, right?
Right.
Okay. So, but the template is just basically like
it's a dummy. It's just it's sort of a blank. Yeah. It just has all the broad tasks, but some are different. Some I have shared to Facebook, shared to Google Plus, shared to Twitter. Some I don't share to Google Plus, but I share to LinkedIn. And so there are different tasks that fit each kind of dummy template. But in my templates folder, I have a blank for each project that I do. And this is not just, podcast prep, because that's kind of my job. This is stuff around the house. I need to, I have laundry, right? I actually have a laundry routine.
Right.
And my laundry routine reminds me that, every week I do the laundry on the weekend, and I have to remember to collect the towels from all the bathrooms. I literally will forget to collect towels for all the bathrooms, even if I have remembered to collect the towels from the master bathroom. I will not go to the other bathrooms if it's not documented. I'll forget, and I'll just wash one room worth of towels. So I do that. Same thing with, collect sheets from all 3 beds.
And you have this routine in OmniFocus?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do.
So then my question is, if you're, like, say it's the weekend and you're going to do your laundry, do you actually then look at OmniFocus on your phone or something, and then check it off as you're kind of going? Okay. I
do. And what's so great about OmniFocus on the iPhone now is that it has these, it has oh goodness, what do they call it? It's like a widget, right? And so you can swipe down from the top and see all of your widgets. And OmniFocus is a widget that I keep right at the top, and it'll tell me, here's what's due for you today.
Oh, okay.
And so I can check off right from the home screen, collect all the sheets from all 3 beds. And I know I've done that. And once I have the sheets in my hands or in the laundry basket, I'm pretty capable, marginally capable, to get from that point to putting the sheets in the washing machine. I will actually do that. So
now, do you have a specific day that you do laundry, or days, or? I
do. It's always the weekend. And so I start my tasks, my home laundry task, that project doesn't hit until Friday morning.
And you have a reminder that pops up that says it's okay.
Yeah,
good.
The task then just sort of becomes available. But what's great about it is it's not just the task, it's the whole routine.
Right. And then
right?
you can check it off as you go.
Exactly. I
Right.
check it off as I go. And so now in the case of laundry, I actually have it repeating. So
I was going to say, so that it starts over, then
yeah,
next week
the
you get
next
the
Friday.
same reminder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as soon as I check it off, as soon as that project is checked off, I know on Friday morning the following week I'm going to get that new task. And so I have the same thing around like lawn maintenance. You know, I know I have things like weeding and mowing, and I need to, you know, I have one task in there that only shows up every year, which is to, you know, run maintenance on the lawnmower and make sure the blade is sharpened, and one that shows up every 6 months to check how my weed whacker kind of coil is going, because we have the kind of, you know, it's got the nylon thread, you know, that you run out of that, and you hate running out of that when you're in the middle of weeding the lawn. So I just always check to make sure I have enough of that. And so those sorts of tasks are all built into my yard maintenance routine.
When those tasks come up as reminders, are you pretty good at then taking care of it like within that week, or does it tend to kind of carry over for a couple of weeks or maybe 4 or 5 years until you get the floor fixed? I had to put that in there.
I'm leaving it. What I'm doing, what you're hearing here is a dramatic and scornful silence. That's what we're including.
Mean. I'm sorry. But it is a really valid question, because I do want to know, because it's very easy to get the reminder of, oh, clean the garage. And this is what I'm guilty of. Clean the garage. Yeah. Okay. I'll get to that.
Yeah. No, I generally, and we've talked about this is how hard my learning curve was in that very regard. And I think, you know, in the case of routines, once I've managed to break the routine down into the smallest possible steps, it's pretty easy for me to actually do it. When I see just check the nylon thread to make sure that I have enough. I can walk into the garage. It takes me 25 seconds to look at the box and say, yeah, I have it. And if I don't have it, you know what I do? I still have my phone in my hand. I go to my Amazon on my phone and I order a new thing, because we're on Amazon Prime. It just shows up. It just shows up at my house. I don't even have to think about it. So I have to streamline that. If the following task was go to the hardware store and buy the nylon thread for the weed whacker, I would not do it.
Right.
I wouldn't do it. That's a case where Amazon has actually directly and deeply supported my ADHD.
Yeah, that's
Right.
great. Okay, so say that on the weekend you're out of town, and so you don't actually get to do your laundry, you know, on that particular weekend. What happens to the list? Does it just sort of like go away and then the next one comes up, you know, the next Friday, or do you have to do something with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, it'll only come up the next Friday, because the repeat option that I have, and this is a little bit of a it's a little bit into the OmniFocus kind of inner workings, but you have four options for repeat. You have don't repeat, right? You have repeat every. So like repeat this task every
Friday.
week, or every Friday, that kind of a thing. Or you can say, you know, defer another, you know, week. I want to, you know, once I check this off, I don't want it to show up again for a week. So if I check it off on a Monday, even though it originally became due on a Friday, if I check it off on a Monday, it'll defer another 7 days to the following Monday. So I don't really use that one. But due again is another option. So it'll show up as soon as I check it off. It's due again on the following Friday. So, you know, I have it set so, you know, it repeats every Friday on that week. So when I check it off, it'll show up again on that Friday. So in some cases, if I'm just not here and the laundry doesn't get done, it'll stay in my task list until, you know, Monday. Say I get back on Sunday night, and I'll just jam through a couple of loads of laundry so I can check it off. So the way I have my laundry, you know, situated, it goes live. The task becomes available on Friday morning, and it's not due until Sunday night.
Right. Okay.
Right. So I have 3 days to do it. If we're just plumb on vacation, then I'll just check through those tasks, because I know I'm not going to get it done. It'll have to be flexible. It only really works when I'm at home and in my space to run the routine.
Well, and to answer your question earlier, I think that is actually one of the reasons that people sometimes resist routines, is because there's a lack of flexibility to it. Now yours, you just explained how that's not true. I mean, you can still be flexible, but that's just, I think one of the common reasons or things I'll hear is that, you know, they want flexibility. They don't want to be so structured. They want to live a little bit more, loosely and not so tight, you know what I mean, kind of thing. But I think as long as the routine has some flexibility in it, so that when you are out of town or you just don't get to it, that it's not the end of the world and you can it still works.
I think that's really important. And there are 2 points to that. The first one is I love the idea of living, without so much structure. I just love the concept of it. Mm-hmm. But I also know if I give myself too much flexibility to just live and not have too much structure, I won't do a stinking thing.
Absolutely. And that's why
people
crave it. That's why they actually really do need some kind of routine or structure.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So this is one of those things that's really super easy to say. Like, I could never have a routine system because I like to have freedom. That's not a real thing. If you're struggling, particularly if you're struggling with ADHD, you can say it all the live long day, but it doesn't really exist. So let's just be super clear about that.
Well, and don't you have more freedom by having the routine, because then it frees your mind from worrying about it.
Exactly.
And that's where I try to where I'll kind of work with the client as making that shift of, this isn't something that's controlling you. You're controlling your time. You're the one that's deciding what the routine is. No one's dictating it to you.
Exactly. And so I'll get this, I'll get people say, well, that would take up my whole weekend. Okay. So make it repeat on Tuesday evenings. Don't do your laundry on the weekends. That's totally fine. You get to own that. But what I keep coming back to is, if you want your laundry done, speaking of myself, if I want my laundry done, I have to have a routine in place to do it, or I will not do it. And that, I think, is the thing people forget.
Well, and it's interesting, Pete, because I am the same way with a lot of that stuff. And I don't have ADHD, but by golly, if I don't have a routine, especially with even meal planning, like meal planning's huge for me. If I don't do it, then I can guarantee you that we will eat out, 4 times that week. Or I'm scrambling and I'm, you're lucky if you're getting a grilled cheese sandwich,
right.
Or whatever. And so, that it really becomes so important that the consequences just aren't worth it. And then the stress too. Like for me, like I said, the meal planning, it stresses me out if I don't know what we're having for dinner. I don't know why, but it just, like, it's this nagging, like, oh, I have to make this decision. But if I've already made the decision on Sunday and I have everything, then I don't mind cooking and I don't mind prepping for it because I already know what's happening.
Exactly the same way. No, we're exactly the same way. And if we do our meal planning on Sunday night, not only do we know what we're going to have, we know what we need to buy at the grocery store that Sunday, for example. Yes. And that is so big for us. We don't eat out a whole bunch. It's pretty special when we eat out, but we will eat some really lame meals.
I know.
But I think what's more insidious for us is the quick trips to the grocery store throughout the week. If we don't do the meal planning, we go to the grocery store every day, and we spend so much more throughout the week because we didn't plan our weeks very well. And that ends up being a real
financial
challenge.
cost.
It is a direct financial cost, yeah. So anyway, that's OmniFocus. Is that...
Yes.
Any other questions on that? So that's how I use OmniFocus for my routines. That's just, a little bit into the weeds. But you can do the same thing with Evernote. For those who have adopted Evernote, you can create sort of a template notebook and put a note for each of your routines and just create checklists in there. Just as Nikki said, use a checklist and drop your notes in there, and you will have a great set of routines that you can document. You can copy and paste into new notes, new projects whenever you need them. And it's super, super useful just to make sure you've thought through all those steps. Now,
okay, I may be jumping the gun and I might be saying something that you're going to already say, but I gotta chime in here.
Uh-huh.
Evernote also has a fantastic little to-do list feature that I use a lot with that checklist.
Okay.
So I just want to share that.
I think that you should talk more about that. If I understand what you're talking about, you're referring to being able to set due dates to specific notes and have them show up kind of at the top of a notebook.
I use it in the most simple form.
Just
So
creating a checklist.
I just insert the to-do list
Yeah.
into the new note.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so if there's something that I need to have steps to, then that's what I'll use Evernote, which I'm sure is the same thing as OmniFocus. It's just
Yep.
a different platform, but,
Yep.
I will use Evernote. So for example, I'm doing this group coaching and there's a lot of steps on my part to coordinate these groups. So there's like certain emails that have to go out at certain times, and there's instructions of how to get onto the call, and all of these different things. And there was no way that I would remember all of it. So I did really similar to what you did with this template. Is I kind of created this to-do list of how to set up these new group calls when it's a new group. And I just I have a notebook that's group coaching, and then I have each individual group coaching group, and I inserted this to-do list, and I really like it because I can actually check it, as I go. And
that's exactly how to use it in OmniFocus. That's just what I'm describing.
Exactly.
It's just using that
thing.
checklist. And I would add the due date for entire notes. You can add the reminder to the entire note. And what I like about that, there's a little clock right at the top of the note as you're editing in Evernote. So you add a checklist to the note. You can actually, say, here's when this note needs to be done.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now and I see the clock.
Yeah, so that's a way
Awesome.
to accomplish that whole sort of here's the routine, and the routine needs to be finished on Friday or on Sunday night. I can set a little alert there, which will make sure that the note is always sort of bookmarked at the top of my notes list. Mm-hmm. So that's number one, and B, it'll let me check off when I finished all the tasks on the note. So it's pretty useful. It doesn't have quite the rigor, the kind of organizational rigor that OmniFocus does, but OmniFocus is way overkill for a lot of people. And so that's why I think Evernote is a really simple, kind of lightweight way to create task lists if you want to do it digitally, right?
Sure.
The other two, these are, I'm afraid these are iOS apps, but I know there are a ton of Android apps that do the same thing. And I think in some of these cases, they might be cross-platform. So the first one is called Daily Routine.
Daily Routine.
Daily Routine. This one actually is, this is for iPhone and iPad. And you can find it at dailyroutineapp.com. So dailyroutineapp.com. This allows you to specifically create a routine for your day, and you assign time to your routines. You say, hey, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to work for an hour and a half. I'm going to take a break for 15 minutes. I'm going to come back to work for an hour. I'm going to have lunch. I'm going to do work. I'm going to do laundry. You set up time and tasks, and then it gives you the interface gives you the ability to shift time around to
What's that? What is it called again?
dailyroutineapp.com.
Okay. You know what that kind of reminds me a little bit of? Our daily checklist.
It does.
But
it does.
in a digital form.
It is. It's been appified. And so it really, and what I love about it is the vibrant color coding of your stuff. So all your work is going to be yellow. All of your breaks are going to be blue. All of your personal kind of meal planning time might be purple.
You're just causing me to ask all kinds of questions.
Please bring it.
So, do you use this app along with your calendar, or are we now getting like fuzzy because you could do the same thing with just your iCalendar or whatever, Google Calendar, whatever calendar you use?
You really can. You really could do this. What I really like about this one is that if you have a day that is pretty, if your days are pretty similar day to day, this allows you to just sort of set your daily schedule with timers for each task, and it just tells you, hey, here's when you move on. You have 3 minutes left in this thing, in your break, and then you're going to move on to your next thing. So if you really struggle with routines, what this does is it automates that kind of prodding for you to keep moving.
Okay.
And you don't necessarily have to go in and manage sort of individual appointments, that kind of a thing. Now, I should say, for disclosure, like I already told you, I use OmniFocus for building my routines and tasks. This is much more oriented to someone who has a whole sort of regimented day that you want to go through, like you said, the daily schedule, that this sort of mimics that activity, but in an app form. And so I don't use this one regularly, but it's a lot of fun to play with and to look at, particularly if you have just a couple of days that, like your weekend is something that you really want to just document, because weekends are miserable for so many people, I think, because there's way too much open time to think about, right?
Well, and that's really, if you go back to the intention of the daily schedule, the printed form that we created, that was my intention, was for those days that are just so crazy that you need to have that time captured. You need to really know when and where and what at what time. And so I like that. I think that's a great, and it's another option for people, because the calendar doesn't work for everyone. So, I mean, I think that it's great that I wouldn't recommend, this is just as an ADHD coach, I wouldn't recommend doing both unless you're using it the way Pete is saying, and doing it just like for those busy days, because then I think it will kind of get confusing and distracting and all that. But it sounds like a great option.
It really is. And when you tap on a task, it's really nice. You tap on kind of a work zone and says, hey, I'm just going to skip this. I'm going to skip this work session. I'm going to move something else up a little bit. It gives you the ability to shift your time. But what I like about it is it gives you the ability to visualize your time. It's not just like a digital clock or a timer where you can't actually see the relative lengths of time. So, because for me, if you just tell me, hey, I'm going to work for an hour and a half and then take a 10-minute break, those two things in my head, they appear the same. Right. It's an hour and a half to 10 minutes. It appears the same relative size to me. And so when I see it on a thing like this, where it actually shows me this hour and a half is physically larger than this 10 minutes, it allows me to really get a much better sense of what I could potentially accomplish in those two spots. And that's one of the things I really like about daily routine and sort of how it organizes time. Particularly, it really appeals to my sort of ADHD self.
Well, and I would just want to add, I think that this also sounds like a great app for college students to explore, especially if they're gearing up for finals. I was just working with a client this last week who is gearing up for finals, and a lot of what we did in our session was breaking up the days of when she was going to study for what class and what subject and all of that. And I could see something like this really helping for that period of time.
The next app is it's a more to the intention, I think, of what I was originally talking about and how I use OmniFocus. It's called Home Routines, and you can find it at homeroutines.com. Home Routines really just lets you set up the routines, the set of tasks to accomplish a goal, and it allows you to say, here's what I need to do on a weekday morning, every week, on recycling day, every weekday evening, that sort of a schedule. So when you say, okay, every week, and I really like the recycling day example, right? So our recycling day is Thursday every other week. So on that day, I know I need to, take out the trash. I then need to go around and get all of our various recycling bins and collect those and take them out. I need to go collect all the cans and bottles that are in the cupboard, and I need to take those out. So there are a set of tasks. It doesn't necessarily give me this the relative time view that you get with daily routine, but it allows you to create a really simple repeating checklist of sets of tasks to accomplish a goal. They actually call it, their first line on their website is so great. Home Routines is an app for what we like to call repeaty stuff. And I think that really gets to the heart of what it is. You set batches of tasks and enable yourself to get them done.
Okay, so where I see this helping me is just yesterday, I had to sit down and my kids have been requesting this. They want chores because they want allowance. And, and so they both have these things that they're saving up for. And so, they're really on me about, Mom, you got to get the chores, so we know what we need to do so we can get paid. And so I had to sit down and try to think of, okay, who was going to do what when, and who, how was this going to be easy and no fighting, because I didn't want somebody to be like, well, I did it yesterday and you did, what I mean? Any parents out there know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I was trying to do that, but I can see where this could help me as far as breaking down the tasks so I can better kind of support them on making sure that these things get done as well.
I'm going to give you a bonus app.
please.
Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Do your kids have their own iOS apps or devices? Like iPod Touch, iPad?
They have iPod. My daughter just saved up for an iPod, which was a big deal.
So it's iPod Touch she has, right? It runs apps.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then my son has my husband's old phone. It's not a working phone, but he can play games and stuff on it.
Okay, so here's what I want you to check out. It's an app from developer James Spencer. It's called iAllowance. iAllowance.
Oh, they're going to love this.
So here's what you do. And we use this around our place because, we also have the trickle down iOS thing. So my kids have non-working. Well, my daughter now, she's old enough. She has a working phone, but my son has a touch, and we put this app on their devices, and then I have it as the parent.
Yes.
Now I can go in and set up each child, put their little picture in there, and say, here are the chores that are on your list.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to love this.
Are you looking at it? It's so fantastic.
I'm not looking at it because I actually don't have my phone with me because it distracts me.
Yes, no, good. That's good. So you can document what they, what they have to do on a given day, and they get to use their device and check it off. And it syncs through Dropbox. So there's a little file that syncs through your kind of Dropbox account. You give them permission to access that file in Dropbox, and then they sync. It actually syncs. It now syncs with iCloud. So if they have one of the free iCloud accounts, it didn't when we first set it up, but so it syncs with iCloud. So your child checks off a task, and once they finish their list, they get automatic allowance. So they can check it up. They can check on their phone how much allowance they get based on what you set them up. So you never actually have to talk to your kids again.
I never have to.
That's
sad.
I'm not meaning that's not true. But
that's interesting. What a great idea.
It is great. It is a great little app. I just love it. And so it's totally worth checking out. iAllowance from James Spencer.
That's awesome. All right,
yes.
I'm doing that.
So we'll put a link to all of these apps in the show notes, and I hope that this conversation helps people kind of rationalize how they can document their routines. For me, if I have documented my routine, I know I will get these tasks done. As soon as I leave something off the list, boom, I'll figure out a way to drop it.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, this is great. This has been very helpful for me. I hope that my questions helped other people too, because this is great. Thank you, Pete.
Excellent. Thank you. So find out more at Take Control ADHD. You can, again, subscribe to the show for free. Get all the show notes on the website there. And I think that's all we have. So on behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll catch you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.